my divine feminine. It's funny, sometimes I find myself whispering those words out loud, still kind of trying them on, trying on some of the words I've heard you talking about as if we've talked about them for lifetimes. I feel like that's exactly how you feel about it. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it just yet. I'm still exploring. Though I have to say, after everything that, well, I just have to own it, everything that I put myself through, there's just something, I don't know, feminine. You've always spoken to my inner child in such a way that I know there'll never be quite enough, or maybe just not quite the more, enough accurate words to describe how you unlock my inner child. Hmm. I feel like a little kid even just thinking about it, talking about missions and light work and what reasons that spirit may have put someone on your path or you on theirs. You're the only one, feminine. I've never heard of anyone else even talk about such things, and I just love how there's just a way about you, whether I hear you in my head or see you in person or sneak looks at your social media and your videos and your blogs. It's like when you talk about what you talk about, it's both. I don't know. I feel like because I know you well, I don't know if anyone else sees it, but I know that you come across as both completely aware that it could all be the most absurd thing in the world, and yet you absolutely and unconditionally believe every bit of it. It's like you run both programs. You're so otherworldly. I know I've heard you talk about being a goddess and all that, but I I'm not sure how to rationalize with myself this feeling like you really are, because there's just something ethereal about you these days. I feel like it really has always been there, but especially these days, it's like you glow and you don't, and it's like you glide from place to place, and you always seem to be everywhere. It's like you're every woman, and there's something in every man that I talk to that I don't know. I guess I find myself looking at them now and wondering if qualities in them I admire are ones that you would admire, either in me or in another. I see. My words just go all wrong. I still, even after all this time, I find myself just as bothered by the idea of you sharing more of yourself with anyone else as I did after the first day I met you. I know it probably sounds funny. I know I did a good job playing it off as if it really wasn't that big a deal. Even later when we talked about it, as if I didn't immediately fall in love with you at that first silly grin from across from me. Though I did, there was just something about you, and I still remember thinking about the other people that were around us, and I could already feel this strange, I want to call it jealousy, but it couldn't have been jealousy. I didn't know you that well. It was some sort of possessiveness is the best way that I can describe it, but I don't know. I've always been told that possessiveness is wrong, but this, it feels different. Like, I don't even quite know how to describe it. What I do know is the first moment after I caught you looking at me with that beautiful grin was that I didn't want any other person to receive that same specialness. It was something different. I saw you look at everyone else. You didn't look at anyone else the way that you looked at me, and that made me feel like the most special masculine in the universe. And I hoped that that was just for me. And you know what's funny? I feel like it was my own fault for becoming used to that, especially with how long you've waited. I think it just felt like a fact of life that it was always mine, and I didn't have to worry about anyone else ever getting that special grin. And I don't know, I might still be right, but I don't know. I feel like I told myself stories, kind kind of like what you're doing, but my stories were awful, and they made me feel stuck because I was telling myself I was stuck. And I feel like really, as these waves of awakening come over me more and more, I see that I never was. And in the meantime, I give you ample room and space and motivation and triggering to decide the hell with me. And you know, oddly feminine, I don't know how you do it. I'm used to feminines telling me to hell with me, to be honest. I thought you would have done that so long ago. And I so pictured it being something completely different than what it is. And, you know, even to let those words out of my mouth just makes me almost want to slap myself across the back of the head because you've never been like anyone else I've ever known. I don't know when exactly it was when I realized that one of our biggest challenges was that I kept trying to excuse myself from being an honorable gentleman because you might have been exactly like the feminines from my past, from family to lovers and all that jazz. And you did everything to show me that you weren't. I still remember you got others, people with credible opinions to point out to me that as long as we had known each other and been together on and off, that if you were ever going to be like anybody I knew or going to be the kind of feminine that I feared you would be if I wasn't so damn afraid of commitment, that you would have already done it. I don't know what it was in me that just couldn't let myself believe, couldn't let myself release the control enough to just enjoy life with you. And it's funny because I know that it's my karma because now I sit here and I watch you living it up, glowing, shining, flowing. You don't need nobody or nothing. Now I'm watching people hand things to you. I don't fully know exactly how you did it, but I feel like even despite me telling you off and pushing you away and ghosting you, you still told me your process the whole time. And I didn't understand it for the longest time. For the longest time. And I feel like I wasn't supposed to, and that it's now in these more gentler waves of awakening and back to the shadow and awake again that I see what you did. It's like you left me a trail of the most delicious breadcrumbs, like they were everlasting and always to be there whenever I decided to follow them. Never, no one could ever sweep them away or kick them off or cover them up. There's just something different about them. They're goddess breadcrumbs, for the lack of a better way to put it. And I feel like See, this is part of why this is part of how you're different. Because I can feel you in that sort of. It's sort of like that energy of to hell with you, masculine, and all your crap. But it's also not. I I feel like I feel like no matter what you might say in 3D, whether you're playing along with the dance moves and the masks that I've been so foolishly thinking would fool you, or whether you're just telling me exactly how you feel, which feels like pretty much all you do. I feel like you're the only person that I know that could, I don't even know how to say it, to be saying everything to me and nothing at all at the same time, to make me feel like I am still absolutely the center of your universe and also completely irrelevant to your universe. I feel like you've told me to hell with me, and also, what are you doing, Slowpoke? Why ain't you caught up yet? I feel like you laid a trail of the most delicious breadcrumbs and spent all this time making a big theatrical show out of it, saying, they're so good. Oh, you want them. You want to follow this. And then knowing me, knowing me as well as you do, you sat there like talking to yourself about how delicious they were and so yummy, and that you were going to leave them there. And then it's like you looked at me and said, no, don't you dare follow these breadcrumbs. Don't you dare taste these breadcrumbs. These are not for you. And the crazy thing, feminine, is that you made it so obvious. You say that thing that obvious things are obvious, and I feel like there was no pretense in it. You made it so obvious that you were putting on the show for me. You made it obvious that you were playing to my natural immature tendency to reverse psychology. And it's like you also made it clear that you knew that I would resist because I could see what you were doing. And I feel so mind boggled and beguiled and almost bewitched because it's like you're the only one I know that would do everything in plain sight, just like that. Make it obvious. Whether you're trying to woo and seduce me or telling me, calling me in, calling me out, whether you're guilt tripping me, whether you're just talking to me because you feel like talking to me, it's like you make it so obvious, everything that you're doing. And it trips me out so much. It still does, even when I'm aware that you're doing it mostly just for your delight in doing it, and that you actually have no ulterior motives other than it makes you smile. I feel like I know you. It used to be because it made me smile. I have plenty of saved texts and notes and memories of all the times you made it clear. Changed my whole world in so many ways. To know there was somebody who cared so much to make sure there was a smile on my face and warmth in my heart. And that was before I had anything. I had nothing to offer to you other than my pitiful self at the time and those third party entanglements. And you still, it was like you you knew no better joy in the universe than to put a smile on my face and warmth in my heart as often as you could. And that, I don't know, I guess it just made me love myself in a certain kind of way that I'd never experienced with anyone else. And now of all things, you're the most frustrating, because I know that now you're doing it because it puts a smile in your face and warmth in your heart. And it's like somehow you found a way to know, to hold on to every future smile on my face and every future warmth in my heart, so that even when I'm mad as hell at you, of course, not that you've done much of anything. That I mean, you can frustrate me, but I put myself in this position, and it feels like the only times I ever get frustrated with you are when I'm looking at your life and how much fun you're having, and I don't even know what to say. It feels like I'm mad at myself. That really is what it is. It is what it is. I'm mad at myself, feminine. I think I'm more mad because I tried so hard to find a single flaw with you. I know old you may have stopped and said, "Oh no, there's plenty there," and even then I argued. I don't know if you remember half those arguments, but now, now that you've been owning you and you owned your BS and you're flowing and you glide into rooms and you are like the most grounded and logical person and also the most eccentric and magical ever, and I can't find a single flaw with you. Anything that might be considered a flaw to me just becomes more perfection, because if you were actually perfect, you wouldn't be human. And so it's like that's your superpower in some sort of way. Like that's what makes you a goddess, that you're more human than anyone I know. And now, I mean, I feel like babe, I'm still standing. Somehow, like I feel like I'm looking back on all the things that have happened, and it feels like it's been 10,000 years and also no more than 10 seconds. And it feels like I'm looking back at an eternity that I spent just being stupid, impulsive, arrogant, stubborn, stuck in that, what do you call it, that victim consciousness where it's just all about me in all the wrong ways. And I mean, you were right about everything. I picked people that I thought needed me, and it was just because it felt like people who needed me weren't going to leave me. And here it is, the great irony, the great divine feminine. My my great divine feminine stands there, and it's like as if the whole world was covered in clouds except where you walk. And wherever you walk, either the clouds have parted and the sun is shining down right over you so that I cannot see light anywhere else but around you, or it's the moon glowing over you, showing just how radiant you are in, in light and in shadow. And it's like I feel like I spent all this time just looking to the left, and there you were in front of me, and I didn't want to look that way because it felt like you didn't need me. I realize that's something I've been holding on to for way too long, because I mean, from the moment that I met you, you were very much an independent feminine. Clearly, you've shown me that in your heart and in your mind, you were far more needy, or at least that you wanted to be, that you would have been if you'd felt safe enough to be. So you've always been independent, and I've always appreciated it, though, I'm looking back at my own patterns and I'm realizing that the people that I felt safest jumping into the stupidest and largest commitments with were the ones that, like, they gave off this air that they were strong and independent. They weren't. They were the most codependent people ever. To the point to where even if I was getting ahead, to where I could actually lift all of us up, they would sabotage it, bring it back down because it was too far up. It was too much light. It was too much fun. It was too much freedom, especially for me. And like, I feel like I finally learned it that they were doing the same thing to me that I did with them, is that because it felt like they needed me, it felt like they wouldn't leave me, and then I could be cockier, I could be king of drama about things and not have to worry about anybody going anywhere because they needed me. And it turns out that they saw they saw me so many times ready to soar, most of the time ready to soar right in your direction, right into that light, like the clouds were parting for me too. And then they'd do something, or they'd have me do something that would trigger us. And I know that you know how you and me are. I mean, we can slice each other open with the triggers when we're not in balance within. And it would just bring me right back down to a place where I felt like I needed them. You know what's funny is I feel like you must have seen it. I don't know how exactly, but I feel like you saw things that I didn't see, that part's not unusual. I feel like it was so obvious and staring me in the face the whole time that these it's not meant to be with these third parties as long as I have been, and it's only been my own self pity and lack of self love that has kept me entangled. And I feel like all along it's like each time I've tried to rise, they have brought me back down, mostly by way of my own victim consciousness. And as I as I found a way to evolve through each time, through each cycle, and I know you'll laugh, especially when I tell you in person about how many times I realized the most efficient and healthiest way to overcome the obstacles that third parties placed in my way, especially the most toxic ones, was to not quite copy you, but to take some leaves out of your book, to use you as my inspiration for what to do. And I really had to get creative too, because at first it was easy enough to just copy you, but then, I mean, the more privacy became non existent, then it was obvious when I was doing that. And, you know, the funny thing is, I feel like so much of this you've already known. I don't know how much you really could know, but you know so much already that maybe it really is that 5D telepathy connection or something. Maybe I'm just telling it all to you when I'm writing my notes to you, or the text that I keep meaning to send, and they just end up in the folders too, or the journal notes I make to myself, the fanciful little stories I write with you in mind. See, feminine, that's where you get me. I feel like, you know, if there's things in front of me that are direct, I can push away the thoughts of you a little bit better, or at least I used to be able to. You see, that's where you do your goddess thing to me, I swear. Because there was a time I felt like I had at least a rhythm down. If I had enough to drink, if I had enough other people's problems in front of me, then at least while those things were going on, I could keep most of the thoughts about you out of my head. They still came in, I mean, because a lot of the stuff that came up in fights and arguments and problems, they were all things that you called me out on before and called me in on. So how could they not remind me of you? Though I feel like I managed to build up enough distractions that I could at least fool myself into believing that it wasn't as strong as it was, that I didn't think about you as much as I did. And if things had kept on going the way that they were, if you had continued to hide yourself and be quiet, or just to sit there and wait, that I probably could have gone on a lot longer with that. But you, feminine, no. No, you couldn't be like that. Instead, you stood up. You cared not about any rumors or gossip. And it's funny because, again, it's like that strange duality, the strange way you have of running dual programs, to where I can tell you don't give a crap about how I feel about what you're doing. And at the same time, I know that you're intentionally doing things that you love, that oh, they just get under my skin in all of the best ways and all of the worst ways at the same time, because it's all of the best ways. It stirs me. It stirs me in a way that makes me realize just how unstirred I have felt since the separation mission started. I guess I really thought that would just come back to me after a certain time, and for a while I tried to convince myself that it was just my body, but there's just something about you, feminine. The way you dress, the way you do your hair, the way you carry yourself now, the way you show that you care deeper than anyone else and also don't give two shits. What did they say? The give a fuck jar is empty. It's like, and I feel like I can see it all around. I mean, you'd be amazed just how often that people will come into my work or into my vibration and talk about you and not even have any idea that we've been connected. And Spirit has been making it exceptionally clear that even if I didn't need to be independent and single and learn to carry myself and love myself and respect myself in all the ways that you told me I needed to, even if I've managed to overcome all those things, even while tangled with third parties, now somehow you've got me in my head thinking about how I don't know if I could be satisfied with life until I do that. And I want to say you did, like, it seems like an obvious thing, like you did it by being the example of it. The only person I've ever known to choose to be liberated and independent and single and show how much fun it is, and not be bitter about it, not be going to some martyr place about how you can never find the right person, or about being broken by the last or anything. Not be too rigid with boundaries and just completely unavailable to love, but also not be out there giving it away to the nearest person who'll give you attention just to have something. I don't know, feminine. You move like a goddess. The way you walk, the way you talk, the new ways you do your hair. I feel like you're the person that I've always known, and yet you're somebody completely new and different that I don't know if I could go on any more time in my life without wanting to get to know you. It's like you've been reborn almost completely. Like, I don't know. It's like we're coming back to the beginning again, and yet not. I really don't know how to put the right words to it, and all I can hope is that, just like you seem to already know everything, especially about me, it feels like you probably already know exactly what this is. And you know somehow that I'm manifesting it too. I'm probably the one who's starting it. I feel like you've shown that to me. You said something about there's no force, there's no assertion when things happen with people is because they both wanted it. And I didn't want to believe you for a long time, but I can't avoid seeing it now. There are so many times now that, like, I don't feel quite as emotionally reactive when I think about you. And I'll find myself now in times when it's quiet, when I could be doing anything. I could reach out to friends, I could reach out to family, I could take care of debts and bills, and I got plenty of work to do. I could be working on me, and you know what I find myself doing? Looking at old pictures of you, looking at old messages, looking at old texts I meant to send, kicking myself for not sending half of them because so many of them could have spoken my heart and brought us back together so much sooner and more beautiful ways. But and feminine, you do this to me too. Because if it was anybody else, I would have just said, oh, well, that ship sailed. Tough luck, day late and a dollar short kind of thing. But with you, you're the only one I know who would completely understand if I sent it all to you right now. Just text after text, email after email, thought after thought, and said, I finally found enough self love and self respect and self worth to be able to tell you all of this. And know that you probably wouldn't question a single bit of it, and you wouldn't be mad, and you would just giggle in the way that I love that you do. And you'd go on about your day, doing whatever you feel like, with me sitting here knowing that everything you pick that you feel like doing, it's something that I would love to be doing too. Whether it's out there having people hand you money, bringing it into you, getting in streams of consciousness, having fun with businesses, out singing on the town, having fun, traveling, exploring, doing all the things. You seem to always pick the things that I said I wanted to do with my life, that I said I needed to do before I could be true and fully committed to you. That I've now put myself in the position that I cannot do because I recklessly jumped into commitments to try to prove a point, and I don't even remember what the point was. All I know is when I look at you, Feminine, that if this was any sort of competition, you won like 100 times over because now, I mean, I could eke happiness out of what I have. I've worked hard, stubbornly hard, to get everything that I've had and everything that I've built, and you're the only one that can make me look back at all of it and feel like it's nothing. And then I feel like I could never be satisfied with any of the old ways, any of the old people, any of the old toxicity. It's like, I don't know, it's like trying to go back to vanilla pudding once you've had butterscotch pudding. Or trying to go back to drinks from the well when you've had stuff from the top shelf. It's like once you know that that apple at the top of the tree is going to be the juiciest and most ripe and most delicious one, yeah, it may be easier to pick from the bottom or just let them fall to the ground, but you know that it's worth it to climb to the top of that tree, so you make sure you keep that ladder in shape all year round. You make sure you trim the branches on those apple trees so you can get up there easily without injuring the tree. You put in the effort, you know? And Feminine, I feel like you're the only one that could make me look back at my story where, you know what, I thought I was doing pretty good just making sure that I was strong. I felt strong, that I was never weak. I didn't mind being a jerk as long as I didn't feel like a pushover. And you're the only one that can make me look back at that and think and see what a fool I have been. And not a fool in the good ways. You're the only one that can make me look back at all that strength, all that machismo, and realize it was more weakness than anything else. You're the only one that can make me look at myself and feel like I want to be able to feel like I have emotions and am fully human and am honored for all of my humanness by everyone around me, especially by myself. You're the only one that could take me from generations of people who entangled them in codependent dynamics and make me look at all of it and say that's not even a challenge. And it's not what I wanted, not what I ever wanted. It made me think I spent most of my life feeling like I wanted an independent woman, and now what I want is an independent me. A thought that's been blowing my mind over and over again a lot lately. Especially the more often that Spirit puts signs in front of my face that that's kind of that here's your sign sort of thing. I even keep hearing it come out of my own mouth. I could do it if it was just me. And I remember, and I'm sure you remember in the past when I'd say, I can't do it by myself. I didn't think I could do it by myself, stuff like that. And now all I hear is this voice in my head, and it's usually mine, which is the freakier part because I'm used to it being yours. And instead, it's mine saying, you could do that if it was just you. You'd go anywhere you wanted to if it was just you. You could be anything you want to be if it was just you. You could rewrite your entire story in any way you like. Be with anyone you like if it was just you. If I could release the final codependent ties, if I could heal the ones that I want to keep, if I could just put on my walking boots and get to walking away from these third parties and not have any attachment to reputation or what people think, is least of all the very people that are unhappy if I'm getting too far ahead of them. It's my voice now. Saying I deserve liberation. I deserve to see who I might be on my own. And feminine, I feel like I would never be able to feel that way if you hadn't figured out how to be exactly who you are and exactly who you are to me, and to make it clear that, well, you ain't putting up with any of my crap in the in-between time. That minute I figure out who I really am and where I really want to go, that I'll never be lacking for someone to walk beside me on the journey and flow in and out of whatever, wherever the wind blows us.